right, welcome everyone. I want to start this out by thanking Propelify and Tech United for having us all here today. My name is Suzanne Willen, and I'm co-founder and CEO of the COCO, New Jersey's preeminent women-focused networking community. Today we are going to explore how to authentically support women in the workplace, a topic that my fellow panelists and I are very passionate about and have a lot of experience in. So I'm hoping some of these how-tos will give you some new learning and that each of us can leave with an actionable next step on how we can be better supporters of women in the workplace. So I'm going to give you 4 reasons why this is a really important conversation. The first is money. According to a 2020 report from McKinsey, firms with more women in senior positions are more profitable. It's about the money. It's about the impact our businesses have on society. Researchers from Catalyst and Harvard Business School found that gender-inclusive leadership is associated with increased social responsibility. And it's about leadership, particularly in crisis. Hi and welcome. Okay, perfect. Can I ask you to just go one seat over? We've got a camera going. Oh, perfect. This is just like being on like the Today Show or something. It's incredible. Yes. Yeah, okay, you can be Hoda. Okay. So we talked, it's about money, it's about corporate social responsibility. It's about leadership, particularly in crisis. In a 2020 Harvard Business Review article by Jack Zenger and Joseph Folkman, they reported that women were rated by those who work with them more positively in 13 of 19 leadership competencies. And then lastly, and this is one we're going to dig into a little bit, it's about burnout. Burnout is on the rise. I don't know if you saw the McKinsey study that came out last week. There's an annual Women in the Workplace study that McKinsey does in partnership with Lean In. I'm getting some nods here. At this time last year, 1 in 4 women were concerning a career change, a step down. They were because of feeling overwhelmed. And I think we all concluded at that point, my personal takeaway was that the point of pain was the combination of home responsibilities in pandemic and production responsibility at work. Sadly, the study came out with worse results this year. 1 in 3 women are reporting that they are feeling they need to make a change. And that was attributed to the increased leadership responsibilities that women are stepping up to in the workplace. Women are stepping up to employee wellness. Women are stepping up to the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that are needed in our organizations now. So, and I saw one article, and it pains me to even utter these words, that this is the new office housework. So what is paining...
New office what?
Housework.
Okay.
So it pains me to say that we've all learned in the last 18 months that women have more responsibility at home, women have equal production responsibilities at work, and now these increased responsibilities of supporting our fellow employees and making sure we're offering equal opportunity for all of our colleagues are also falling on women, and it's causing an overwhelm or burnout. I'm seeing like nods. This is resonating with a few people. So that makes my heart feel heavy, and I'm sure it makes yours too. So I want to bring my 2 amazing panelists in to talk about what are the things that are happening in our world that are addressing some of those issues. Let me do some brief intros of each of these fabulous women. Suchi, I'm going to refer to my notes here. Suchi Ramesh is founder and CEO of Suchi Inc., a next-generation supply chain platform. The Suchi Grid, I love this word, is an intuitive software solution that digitizes the entire supply chain, empowering participation, providing a single source of truth across suppliers, factories, brands, retailers, warehouses, customers. Sounds brilliant. She's a self-described, I also love this, nerd, as am I, engineer and management consultant. She spent her early career in analytics companies. She worked the entire spectrum developing predictive models, managing teams, and building sales organizations, winning multi-million contracts. Kathleen Coviello, on my right, is a senior vice president with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. She has spent her career as a financial services professional, building teams that deliver outstanding customer service and unique financial solutions. I can attest to that. I've had the privilege of working with Kathleen. In her current role, she is the founding director of NJEDA's Technology and Life Sciences team. She has delivered, wait for it, over $1 billion in investments, business incentives, tax credits, and venture fund investments to emerging technology companies. Woo-woo. And as I mentioned earlier, I am the founder and CEO of the COCO, the preeminent women-focused networking community in Greater New Jersey, with a physical space in Summit. Our membership includes entrepreneurs, corporate and tech professionals, and career breakers. COCO members meet one-on-one in small groups and as a full community to create value, impact, and opportunity for one another. So let's jump in. Ladies, I would like to hear from you. What are you experiencing in your life and career that's supporting and inspiring women in the workplace in this, as we've laid it out, very challenging time? Either one of you, jump in.
Well, I could start. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Yes, I used to be, even as a tech company, very particular about being in the office. It's the kind of workplace I used to work at before starting the company. And COVID sort of forced us all to be remote. And so it's been a learning to me as well that, and then we could talk about how flexibility takes on a whole different form when you're at home because there's burnout, etc. But I think for us, step one was we went from being in the office 5 days a week, fast-growing startup. So, I would be in the office 10, 12 hours, and the women that had leadership positions, we were unconsciously seeing them, it wasn't forced, but when you're a part of a team that's growing fast, you have people reporting to you as a woman, you're in the office. So the first benefit right away we saw is that women were able to do more in our company being home. And I learned a lot as a leader as well. You get used to a certain way of doing things and you think that that's the norm. So even though we were a technology company, we were kind of unique in that we were in the office all the time. So we went from that to being to working from home 5 days a week. And I know that in speaking with folks, whether it's women or men who are parents, it's been a big benefit. The other thing I think as leaders, whether we're entrepreneurs or whether we're managers of teams, it's tough to appreciate and empathize what it is to manage work and responsibilities at home. I think unless you're actually thrown those responsibilities yourself. So I think it's been very humbling for me because I'm a first-time mom. I had a baby. We had a baby. It wasn't just me. So it takes two, right? So we had our firstborn 7 months ago. During COVID, so the COVID baby, and so it's been very gratifying, but it's also been very humbling. So I think I've grown up as a leader as well to be able to appreciate, discussing tips on how we can manage while we're all fully remote. And it's been a learning, even now that we see the world coming back to normal. I think there's a lot of benefit in having a hybrid work environment where let's start by providing folks the flexibility to define their own work schedule, but also give them some guidelines around that, right? If you start forcing people into a new habitat and as leaders not provide the guidelines, I think that's what also leads to burnout, because this is a new world we're operating in where you're operating 80 to 100% from home. And I think it's also the responsibility of companies and leaders to say, for example, right, if you feel it's better to get your job done in the mornings and switch off at 3, that's fine as long as you're defining performance being outcome-based versus being in front of the laptop all the time.
There is so much in what you just said. The hybrid workplace being really clear, quoting one of my favorites, Brene Brown, clear is kind. And then the outcome being judged, reviewed based on outcome as opposed to office FaceTime.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that triggers any other thoughts. I think there's a lot in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can open it up instead of, I started, so I don't want to be the only one talking, but I'll pass it back.
Yeah, Kathleen, what thoughts do you have?
Yeah, so, government usually isn't the most progressive and forward-thinking, and I joined, government usually isn't, right? And I joined government 16 years ago as a means to raise a family because I was in the private sector in the venture banking industry and on airplanes all the time to Palo Alto and Boston and just couldn't manage my life with 3 children. And when I joined, it was, you had to have your butt in the seat from 9 to 5 and you were judged by the hours that you were in the office. And what's wonderful is really the opportunity and transition that I've seen as a leader at the Economic Development Authority in supporting diverse work groups. So Suzanne talked about the diversity in our workforce makes us think differently and makes us better thinkers, right? And so we have been very intentional at the EDA about bringing in folks from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different ages, quite honestly. We have a diverse population to serve in the state of New Jersey, and so we want an organization that's going to mirror the businesses that we're trying to serve. I think it's really important for the leaders in the organization then to be open to the discussions on how you manage your life, right? And to set by example. Our CEO was in the organization for, I think, about 18 months when he took paternity leave, the CEO, and was out of the office for 4 to 6 weeks. I think that really set the tone for the organization, and it was off, I'm off. And interestingly enough, the governor has put some really strong legislation in place around leave for new parents. And we work closely with the governor's office, and I just got an email that one of his, chief of staff, a gentleman's wife had a baby, and he was out. He was on paternity leave. Don't bother him. And I'm like, that's amazing. Congratulations to him. It said, go to this person instead. We're really supportive of that. So I think for leaders in organizations, we have to be open to the conversations. We have to understand that with a diverse workforce comes diverse needs, right? And that my needs now with 3 grown children aren't going to be the same as the needs of someone who, is just starting out in their career. And being willing to have a safe place where people can have those conversations, I think is critical, right? And to talk about career paths. And it's not about you don't have to work because you're a woman or because you're a mother or because you're caring for elderly. It's how do you manage them? How do I help you succeed in getting things done and being impactful? So it's a very, very different mindset, I think, for organizations. And I think it's up to us as leaders in organizations to be open to those conversations. Otherwise, we're not going to get the best work product. We're not going to be impactful in what we do. And quite honestly, we're not going to have folks that feel motivated in their job and interested in their job and be able to deliver the results that we want as leaders in the organization.
Kathleen, I love that. I love that one thing you said, with a diverse workforce comes diverse needs. Beautiful. And really about leaders setting the example. And I'm hearing 2 ways in creating space for that conversation so you can discover what, in this conversation, a woman in the workforce needs to be successful. And setting an example, taking paternity leave, right? So that others in your organization feel empowered to do the same. Wonderful. Any questions, comments? I'm sure thoughts are percolating.
I kind of have an umbrella view of all different sides of companies across the country. And so I am often on Zoom calls sharing a gem on web typically in my business, as you mentioned earlier, I work with CHROs and personnel who historically
Right.
So, I'm on a Zoom call and I have like an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old doing an executive thing. Well, she started paying attention to me, and her husband is up in his office with his work clothes. He can't be disturbed. She's got little kids and she's a man. Like, so it's just, I see it in real time. Like,
Right.
I think the most important thing is the second one. Because I think as women, we enable people to take responsibility.
Oh, Colleen, I love that.
You know, in my case, it's being violent, get off the hook for a while. I
Right.
don't even know when I'm to the deadline. Like, I don't announce my efforts. So, like, it's those ways in which they, like, allow people to take advantage of others. Maybe you should not be able to say shit, step up to
Yeah.
the plate. So, I think it's young women, and I have a 9-year-old daughter, that, to be able to parent her,
I'm going to do a quick paraphrase for the recording, and that was brilliant. So we're talking about how to authentically support women in the workplace, and if I could really summarize the comment from the table, it starts with ourselves, and it starts with setting our own boundaries. And I love it when you said, I don't announce it when I unload the dishwasher. So, but if my partner announces it, I'm like, well, okay, so fine. So,
I
yeah.
agree what you're saying. Even I observe that women end up taking care of a lot of things where husbands are also working from home, but the doors are closed and it can't be disturbed. In my case, me and my husband, we actually discussed the day before. I tell him, at this time I have an important meeting, and I don't have young children, but I have a new puppy in the house. She barks and barks and barks like a baby. So I say, you take care of her around this time, and then when my meeting is done, then she can sleep near my feet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know when she wakes up and starts barking. But one interesting thing I want to say, which we have noticed as part of our work, is that women, women have to understand what are the issues surrounding, especially my interest is getting more women into technology. And the reason is not many women are there in technology, in leadership positions for women to look up to. So we created a community of women leaders, so who can be mentoring these women.
Yes.
And I say mentoring is not enough. Sponsoring is the key.
Yes.
In my career, I
Intentional.
had 2 women who actually helped me to go up the ladder. So we need women to sponsor each other. A lot of times we are really, I hate to use the word be, sometimes we are very, jealous of someone. We need to really understand how we can help each other by even involving men so they understand what are our challenges and they start to appreciate the efforts that we are putting in. So we recently did a gender balance at workforce event, and there were many women and men participated. One of the things we do as part of that is silent witnessing, where women are asked certain questions and they just raise their hand if it applies to them or to anyone that they know of, and men just witness. And same thing happens to men. And women were totally surprised to see even men had these kind of issues at workplace. Maybe not at the same percentage, but there is understanding in both genders. So I think it's important to bring people together, more inclusive of men in our efforts than just we discussing our issues
Love it.
all the time.
And I
That's been my
totally agree, because as a manager, I know, I have men that work for me and their wives are having babies and being supportive of, the men as well, right? That it's not just the women that have to take care of the things at home. And so in the workplace, kind of understanding that holistic unit is really important. And what a great kudos to you and your husband that you manage it out. You know, my husband is a teacher, and so he would take care of our 3 children in the summers. And he always laughed at me that he would take 3 kids under the age of 5 to the grocery store, and people would be like, "Oh, that's great, you're doing that." And he's like, "They're my kids." He goes, "My wife does it too, and nobody stops her and says, 'Good job.'" You know? And so, you know, I think just kind of understanding that dynamic, and that, you know, in the workplace, we have to be supportive of men supporting their families as well. And so that alleviates it falling all on the woman's shoulders.
Yep, very true.
Love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Just noticing that we're talking about supporting women in the workplace, and it's all women at the table. So,
I think we have a few people wanting to join. Can they join? Or?
yeah, we have one.
They're blocked.
Yeah, so just pull up a chair kind of in here. Yeah, that would be great. We're expanding the circle here. Perfect. Please join us. Please join us. You know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a different direction on the conversation. I think that was fabulous. Let's talk about authentically supporting women entrepreneurs. I'm going to give you a few stats for context. 62% of women entrepreneurs cite their business as their primary source of income. 68% of startup funding comes directly from the business owner's pocket. We've discussed the value of women to companies' financial performance, and I have one with my friend Suchi right here. Private technology companies led by women achieve 35% higher return on investment. And by the way, I have sources for all these stats if anybody wants any of them. That was kind of when I was nerding out, right? And then last year, women received just 2.3% of venture funding. So we have a successful woman technology entrepreneur right here. We have a successful financial professional who is fueling technology entrepreneurs. What are you two doing, seeing, experiencing that's really supporting women in technology and entrepreneurs today?
Go ahead. Yeah. So I feel really passionately about what Chaya said. I got the name right, about women in. So can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah, you just got to really project.
Yes. So I was saying I feel really strongly about what Chaya said about, women in tech and the opportunity that provides you. And not that if you're not in tech, you're not at a disadvantage, but it's a huge boost when you have a background in STEM. And I was fortunate, like any self-respecting Indian immigrant that came in, software engineering, MBA in software, 10 years in tech, but it served me well. And I will say I spent 10 years in corporate, and I had really good jobs. But without going into the details of it, I started in India and then came here. And there was, of course, I was very ambitious, but I stuck out like a sore thumb. And despite being at very, big name companies, really good roles. So I think the learning I had is, instead of being a victim of the circumstance, and I know there are stats and there's still, all those stats are improving, whether you're entry level or you're at the exec level, change is going to take some time because change is based on the population that is in the ecosystem. So I think when I became an entrepreneur, I had to almost take a step back to take a step forward, but it was a way for me to control my destiny, right? So like the stats, I did have to bootstrap at the beginning before I raised funding, and we were lucky to eventually, 3 years in, find funding from one of the really well-known funds here in the Northeast. But I think a big part of this conversation is having more entrepreneurs, and it's great to see around the table a lot of entrepreneurs at different stages. talk about it, I think the entrepreneurship is the biggest agency for change for us.
Love that.
And starting something on your own, and entrepreneurship doesn't have to take one form, right? You don't have to have a big scale venture-backed company to be an entrepreneur. It could be a solo entrepreneur. You could have a few people. You could have 10 or 100 people. But if you want to define your destiny, I think it's also about coercing more women to take that path. And risk is always worse when you think about it than when you're experiencing it. But then you have to talk to fellow women entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs about, well, what's the worst case, right? Is the worst case losing the investment, or is the worst case having others define your path? And I think instead of my perspective is, when I talk to other women that want to be entrepreneurs, let's not worry about the stats. Let's divert that energy to seeing how do we control our own destiny. And I know entrepreneurship is not for everybody if there's a definition of what that is. But if you take that off and you say there's a million versions of entrepreneurship, but all of them give you agency for self-empowerment, then I think that's the way to bust the stats.
Love it. Love it. I'm feeling empowered. How about you? I love
Yeah,
it.
well said. Well said.
Kathleen.
Yeah, so
Thoughts?
one of the things I'm very passionate about is funding female entrepreneurs. And in my career, I can only, and I've asked this many times, how many females I funded. And it is sad how few in the tech and life science industry have been women. And one woman, Miri Park, runs a technology company in New Jersey called Chromis Fiber Optics. So again, very heavy engineering background, and she left corporate to go start a tech company. Her company was funded by an angel group called Golden Seeds that only funds female entrepreneurs. And when the current governor came into office with a focus on diversity and building a diverse innovation ecosystem in New Jersey, I just felt there was a real opportunity for New Jersey to step up and do something different. And got the support for the state to step in and create our own Golden Seeds chapter. And what's amazing about this group is that not only do they fund these entrepreneurs and give them the capital that's needed to succeed in their business, but they have these monthly office hours where you can meet with high net worth women that have been successful in their careers, that are looking to invest, that are looking to mentor, that are looking to support companies. And so every month, New Jersey's Golden Seeds chapter meets. We've been meeting actually virtually, talk about, tenacity. We started a month before COVID. We had our first Golden Seeds office hours in person at the Coco,
Right.
Our only in-person one, and then went virtual. And the New Jersey chapter is now over 25 investors, and it's amazing to me to see the mix of both women and men that want to support women entrepreneurs. Invest in 3 different industry sectors, so retail based businesses that we look for about $1 million in revenues, life sciences, and technology companies. So 3 different industries. But you get this array of people who filter into those categories. Yeah. Golden Seeds chapter. Golden Seeds is the name of the angel group. Yeah. And it brings together this network of investors from all over the U.S. So there's a chapter in Palo Alto, there's a chapter in Boston, a chapter in New York, and it allows a safe place for entrepreneurs who want to first vet their ideas. And our last office hours, we had a woman who had a baby, literally, in her hands.
I love
trying
that.
to take care of the baby and do her pitch because her babysitter stood her up. I'm like, oh my gosh, kudos to this woman for still showing up, right? And pitching her business. It was a really
Amazing.
really, really complex business model. And she didn't let anything get in her way. And but having this resource here, I think, is something that I'm really passionate about in how we support female entrepreneurs in the state. The other resource I'll mention, I shared this with Suzanne, legislation was just signed in June for funding for New Jersey Innovation Fellows. So we're standing up this grant program that will supplement income. So we hear from so many entrepreneurs, I don't start a business because I need a day job, right? Like I don't have a sugar daddy to, pave the way. And so we're piloting a program in the state that it'll be a competitive process, but you can apply to get a grant to support the salary that you're foregoing to build your business in New Jersey. So, bringing down the barriers for this diverse entrepreneur base that we want to build in the state, I think is really important.
Love it. Thank you for all of that you're doing. It's amazing. Amazing.
Golden seeds. Yep.
Golden seeds.
Does Golden Seeds allow someone to be part of the investing group?
Yeah.
Or does it have to be only entrepreneurs who are pitching?
Oh no, we're signing up chapter members every day. Yeah. So we have a lot of talent in New Jersey and a lot of wealth, right? And so, to keep this mindset here and to turn it into investments, I think is really important for us to build the ecosystem in the state, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want these women who retired from JP Morgan Chase or from BMS to leave the state and go to Florida. We want them to keep their cash here and their mind share here, right? And for the most part, when we talk to these folks that become angel investors, they want to be engaged. They want to be on the boards. They want to help build these companies and watch them grow and share, their experiences. And so, I think it's been a win-win for all. The New Jersey chapter actually was the most active chapter of Golden Seeds in its first year of operations. We funded over $5 million of angel investments into companies. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a question to you, Kathleen, really quick, and before we pass it on the table. So I think one part of spurring entrepreneurship in women is helping them get off the ground, and to some extent the fund does that, the grant.
Yep.
And then Golden Seeds is a step above that. But I think from experience, right, even fewer women are able to scale companies to big size. And that's really, you can get it to 1 million, but then those that go past that, then you need fuel, right? You need a lot more ammunition. So just something to, I'd love to hear now or later on a thought to seed in there is what about, that scale up more, where you want to become a corporation and the amount of dry powder you need then is a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? And then, that's where the stats really become real, is the ability to go out there and raise a lot, a bigger multiple of dry powder. So something to leave you with, because you have the power to influence that.
Fascinating.
Well, I hope it is. And so, one piece of that, I think, is the investor tax credit that we have in New Jersey. So
Good
if you
point.
get certified as a woman-owned business and have 75% of your employees in the state, you get outside capital, your investors could get a 25% tax credit. And that's a refundable tax credit, so that's cash back in their pocket. So as an entrepreneur, I'm always telling folks, you need to understand if you qualify, because when you're going out and pitching your business to say to a potential investor, I can de-risk your investment and I can enhance your ROI with this state tax credit, that's real power. And that speaks to the dollars and cents that angel investors want to know about. I also think we need to have more accelerators in the state, and we're working on that. We have partners, I think it's 5 at this point, approved accelerators that will really kind of send you through this cohort boot camp, and we match whatever funding these companies give you. So Morgan Stanley's Multicultural Innovation Labs, if you're not familiar with them, pretty competitive process, but we partner with them. They fund companies with $250,000, and we match that with another $250,000, and we give you free rent to locate your business for 6 months in a co-working space around the state. We have VentureWell, which is a life science one, Launch Lane, Clean Tech Open. So we're building, and you're going to hear at 12 o'clock about the newest accelerator we're bringing into the state called Hacks, which is a hardware accelerator that's going to be locating in Newark. So we're really trying to partner with investors, both angel investors and fund managers. And Suchi knows we're investors in a number of venture funds. And we have requirements for those funds to invest in New Jersey companies. We're now pulling diversity stats from all of our fund partners and measuring them against that. And Hacks, our new partner that's coming to the state, has agreed to set aside seats in their program for diverse founders. So that includes women entrepreneurs. So they're going to start collecting data. They've never done that before about people that apply to their program. And then they're going to make sure that they have intentional open seats for diverse founders.
Excellent.
There's a state certification for women and minority business enterprises.
It's a women minority-owned business.
Suchi, did you participate in an accelerator?
No, I didn't. So I bootstrapped it for the first 2.5 years. I went all in, and I also personally guaranteed a lot of the loans at the beginning. For me, it was two things. I didn't study here. I had not started my career here. So for me, it was, do I take the time to go build a network and spend time on that because that's a full-time job?
Yep.
Or do I just say this is an investment in myself and take that risk? So I had to do that. My experience is unique, and then I was of course fortunate that I found a venture investor that did our Series A. But sometimes, right, it's so I didn't do the accelerator, but for me, I wanted to spend all the time that I could
Yes.
building the business and getting sales, right? Because sales is the one thing that that gives you agency.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you go at the start where you don't have numbers and you're going out there and raising money, you're going to pitch 1,000 people and you're going to get maybe 1,000 no's because you're pre-revenue, right?
And did anybody give you that feedback? Did anybody say to you, get the clients, get the revenues first?
I was fortunate because my past in tech, I was in sales, right? And I was at fast growth companies. So I was fortunate like that, so I knew it because the company that I was with had raised money.
Yeah.
And then when I started to go out there and try to pitch people, I quickly realized, wow, this is taking time, and this is taking a lot of my time that I'd rather use that to get revenue. And then a lot of our early customers became indirect investors
Great.
because we would give them discounts to pay up front.
Yeah.
Right.
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 Smart.
And
Very
so
smart.
so all of that, I still have, I still have a percentage that I still have a guarantee on personally. So in many ways, I'm like a mix, right?
Right.
I bootstrapped. I have venture funding, but I think it's the means to the end, right? It's all about what's the upside. The upside is control. The upside is who you become as a person along the way, and the upside is wealth creation. And so there is obviously a downside in it is, but you personally, each of us has to ask ourselves that question.
It requires prioritizing your funding needs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a mentor. I've been in business. In my business, we're running for over now close to 15 years, right? So I have different mentors for my business because when you have a need, it's very difficult to make a decision where to invest and which function is critical for you, right?
Yeah.
So you want money all the time. Revenue has to flow
Yes,
in. At the same
yes.
time, you need to invest to grow your business. It becomes a chicken and egg story.
Yes.
So it's always good to have mentors and have those kind of conversations with them.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Thank you for that. My business partner and I are thinking about an investment, and we need to reach out to a mentor. Right? Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, it's always helpful.
I am looking at the time, and I know our tech crew wants us to wrap it up in the next few minutes. Does anybody have any final questions for our panelists before we wrap up? Natasha.
that because I was exactly where you were. I was exactly where you were. Don't ask anybody. That's my take. I just do stuff. Just go a day at a time. Go do things. Because if you wait for others to tell you what to do, you're going to have too many voices. So the one thing to start with is go out there and start selling what you're trying to do, right? That would be step one.
Start small.
You're
Yeah.
going to,
Great
yes.
suggestion.
Yes, start small.
You're going to make so many mistakes along the way, but that's part of it because your business and the path you take is going to be so unique. No book, no article, nobody out there, no matter what degrees they have, how impressive they seem, is going to have the answers for you. You have to do, right? You have to stop asking. You have to do.
Great.
And I'm happy to have conversations because I'm happy to talk about it and give you some guidance. But I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself because I'm saying, don't give guidance, right? The fact that you got this far is awesome, right? So you just have to keep doing.
Start small. Yeah.
My parents are the ones that came from Colombia, grew in a tube, and eventually popped out of the front.
There is an accelerator in Newark called Digital Undivided. Digital Undivided in Newark, and they focus on Black and Latino female founders.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm gonna put a parking lot here. You guys are gonna
Yeah.
connect. You're going to hang with Lynn and me because we have a lot of people who are right where you are, or we're right where you are. You're gonna talk to Suchi. We're gonna push you. We're gonna push you. Yes. So I know we've got the next table who wants this table. So I'm going to give one final little wrap up here. I want to thank these
Thank you.
extraordinary women. I want to encourage you to continue this community and connection. That's what we're all about at the Coco. If you want more of this, talk to my partner Lynn and me. This is what we do. All right, thank you all. This was a great time.